Tension erupted. U.S. adding air power to naval operations in South China Sea. Regional experts say U.S. officials are using a range of aircraft to make speedy yet thorough checks on China's expansion in a disputed Asian sea. The flights, added to the more obvious passages of Navy ships through the South China Sea, will further inflame China, analysts say, adding that planes see more than ships and complete their missions faster. Aircraft can handily survey the sea and due to their altitude see a lot of things a vessel cannot from a bird's eye view, said Alexander Vuving, a professor at the Daniel K. Inouye Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies in Hawaii. Planes come and go faster than ships, he added. U.S. warship passages into the South China Sea doubled in 2019. The American planes fly more than 22 kilometers from China's shoreline, Vuving said. Whether it's intensifying or not is already accepted, even already included, in China's strategic calculations, said Eduardo Araro, associate professor at the National University of Singapore's Public Policy School. Among the more visible U.S. aircraft are B-52 bombers, which were sighted in 2018 and in July last year when they flew from Guam to join an aircraft carrier exercise. Last month planes took off from U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups that were moving through the sea. Washington regularly sends reconnaissance aircraft to the South China Sea, Chinese sources say. From March to November last year, the U.S. sent 3 civilian contractor surveillance aircraft to monitor the South China Sea among other waterways, the Chinese government-backed research website South China Sea Strategic Situation Probing Initiative says. The civilian planes are backing up 8 types of military reconnaissance aircraft, the database says. The U.S. military sent strategic bombers to the South China Sea last year, it adds. Reconnaissance aircraft flew over the South China Sea 3 times in February, Beijing's state-monitored Global Times reported. The U.S. Indo-Pacific Command did not answer a request for comment. In 2019, the U.S. Marine Corps sent its F-35B Lightning II aircraft for joint military exercises in the Philippines, marking an increase in military capability committed to a free and open Indo-Pacific region, the U.S. Navy says on its website. Airspace outside of 22 kilometers normally belongs to no single country, but Beijing claims 90% of the South China Sea and cites historical records that indicate Chinese use of the waterway. Brunei, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan and Vietnam call all or parts of the same 3.5 million square kilometers sea their own, causing friction with China. Claimant states look to the warm waters for fish and undersea fuel reserves. The Chinese research website calls U.S. reconnaissance operations frequent and says they have built up strong momentum for battlefield construction and warfighting readiness across the U.S. military. Officials in Beijing say U.S. military units disrupt peace and violate international law. The United States, China's former Cold War rival and modern-day superpower rival, makes no claim to the sea. It has stepped in as Beijing takes a military lead in the maritime dispute, threatening a network of pro-US governments such as Taiwan and the Philippines. China, which is backed by a growing military that ranks as the world's 3rd strongest, would take strong steps if an American plane entered its airspace, Araro said. Chinese planes and warships already hold periodic drills in the contested sea. Both powers will probably keep flying until two-way relations improve, said Alexander Huang, strategic studies professor at Taiwan's Tomkong University. The two countries stand at odds over trade and technology as well as China's military pressure against its neighbors. The real thing is that if the United States-China military ties is not going back to normal, then we will continue to see this kind of reports and complaints, Huang said. The 5 other South China Sea claimants look to Washington for support against Beijing's maritime expansion as they're all militarily weaker than China. They resent China's land reclamation on some of the sea's tiny islets as well as the circulation of Chinese ships near sensitive natural gas and oil reserves. Military infrastructure occupies some Chinese-held islets today, and Chinese fighter jets have been spotted as recently as July on Woody Island, a feature vigorously contested by Vietnam. Southeast Asian claimants hope the U.S. flights will deter China from extending its maritime claims, analysts believe. For the Philippines, when the U.S. does these things, it in a sense demonstrates some sort of a balance of power, said Aaron Ribina, a research fellow at the Asia-Pacific Pathways to Progress Foundation in the Philippines' Quezon City. Meanwhile, a U.S. spy plane has conducted its closest ever flyby to Chinese territory according to a report made by the South China Sea Probing Initiative or SCSPI think tank, amid surging tensions in the region. The SCSPI reported that a U.S. Air Force RC-135U combat cent flew just 25.33 nautical miles past China's coastline on March 22. The Peking University-connected think tank said it was the shortest distance U.S. reconnaissance aircraft have reached from China's coastlines, based on public data so far. According to images shared by the think tank, the spy plane passed closest to the coast of Shantou, a prefectural city in eastern Guangdong province just at the southern end of the Taiwan Strait. It also noted that 2 other U.S. aircraft were in operation just south of Taiwan. The U.S. military has increased the frequency of daily spy plane flights and have been edging ever closer to Chinese territory. The last closest pass-by was conducted last July when an intelligence flight flew within 41 nautical miles of the Zhejiang coastline just north of the Taiwan Strait. Other intelligence-gathering flights have reportedly been conducted where U.S. aircraft were disguised as civilian aircraft. The SCSPI think tank, which announced the news, is not affiliated with any institution and is mainly funded by donation and non-profit investment. Its members include experts and scholars from around the world, gathering data from both intellectual and open sources. In their annual report, SCSPI noted that in 2020 there were nearly 1,000 air reconnaissance missions launched from several U.S. bases in the Pacific. According to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, the U.S. has been conducting an increasing number of freedom of navigation operations in the region amid acts of coercion and aggression committed by China. The U.S. united in the vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific region, where countries follow the rules, cooperate whenever they can, and resolve their differences peacefully, and in particular, he will push back if necessary when China uses coercion or aggression to get its way. Despite the accusations, Beijing has been working with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN to create a code of conduct for the South China Sea. The ASEAN Code of Conduct aims to eliminate issues surrounding territorial claims in the resource-rich region after China claims 90% of its territory as its own.